All right, and good evening to you. It's time for the North Florida Blitz here on FortHSFootball.com and the FortHSFootball.com social media platforms. I'm Joshua Wilson, your host here of the North Florida Blitz, and we appreciate everybody that's tuning in here. If you got a comment, question, or just want to share some stuff, you can message us in the comments box on Facebook, X/Twitter, or on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, where it's at Florida HS Football on YouTube. Hit the notification bell when we go live or post new content. Of course, follow us on social media. That's at Florida HS Football on all the platforms except for X/Twitter. That is at FLAHS Football. And definitely appreciate everybody again joining us here. And to set the table here, we're going to talk about quite a few undefeated teams here tonight across the state. There's some interesting news and interesting tidbits that we've got along the way here as well. And our guest tonight will be Mike Ridaught of Main Street Daily News, also the Prep Zone here in North Central Florida, the Gainesville area. And Mike Ridaught, he's the sports director for Main Street Daily News, which is a subsidiary of Mark Radio here in the Gainesville market. So we will talk to Mike and talk about North Central Florida football, North Florida football, a lot of teams across the area as well. And then, of course, our pick six and our fan questions and comments along the way. And already seeing a couple of comments in the box. We'll have a question we'll put up later here. And then appreciate Mark Gannon, who is so dedicated. He leaves us the comments 3 hours before the show starts, attending to Lafayette at Chiefland. And Lafayette's a nice team, but Chiefland was too much for them. Not sure what Chiefland's playoff path will be, but they will be a tough out. And yes, Lafayette at Chiefland, that was an interesting game there. And that's actually one of the topics we'll talk about coming up here in a few minutes here on the Blitz lines. But yes, Lafayette, they were celebrating their Chiefland, I should say. Chiefland was celebrating their 1997 state championship team this past Friday night. So, and what's interesting to note about that is that Lafayette was the school that they played in that state championship game. So, and yes. Woo! The comment that pops up in this box, and I am going to go ahead and just put it up on the screen. Gene McKenzie, go ahead and give Bradford their props. And yes, Gene, Bradford will get their props coming up here in a few minutes. So you'll get that, Gene, and everybody else with the Bradford Tornadoes. We will talk about that here in just a few minutes here. But with that, it's time for the Blitz lines as we get rolling, and we're going to start along out there in the Panhandle, and we have the Mosley Dolphins moving on to 4-0 this season, and they're starting to get tension around the state. Of course, Mosley sitting there in class. I'm trying to remind myself, Class 5A receiving votes this past week in the FloridaHSFootball.com sports media rankings. Defeated Navarre 36-7. So Mosley sitting there on a roll, looking really good. And again, as I said, we're going to bring up teams that are here that are undefeated here. A lot of teams across this section of the region 4-0. Yes, and Zach Lesnar pops in and says Mosley looking good at 4-0, up to number 12 in the 5A on Max Preps. Big game against Escambia on Friday. And yes, we will talk about Escambia here in a moment as well, because that was a little close there for Escambia this week, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes here. Of course, you'll see that there in the rundown that we have on the right side of the screen here. Yeah, I'll point it that way because that's the camera the way this way. Yep, there you go. To the right side of the screen there, you'll see the rundown to see what's coming up here. And how about Mariana cruising on all cylinders? They're 4-0 and crushed the rural state semifinalists from last year, Bozeman, 49-0. So the Mariana Bulldogs just really firing up on all cylinders here. And again, so there's some teams that have been sitting there kind of just laying low in the Panhandle. They've had some years where they've struggled, but now all of a sudden some teams are starting to, the cream is starting to rise to the top, as they would say. So with that said, another team that is rising to the cream of the top right there is Tate. Tate still unbeaten, 4-0. They were 5-5 last year, so Tate's one game away from matching their win total from last year. So how about this? The Aggies, 30-14 over Milton. You got to really kind of think that Tate is going to be in the playoff hunt in Class 6A this year. And they've been receiving votes as well in the FortHSFootball.com sports media rankings. They actually, again, beating Milton 30-14. So how about Tate? Looking really, really, really good right now. All right. This one. Wow. How about Jay crushing Baker from this score? 41-0. Yes, this is the same Baker team that Matt Brunson came back and they got crushed by Jay. You who traditionally does not win this game against the Baker Gators. Wow. I mean, the Jay Royals may just be legitimate after this. I mean, they are really, really looking really solid here. And I did not expect that for Jay to crush Baker the way they did. And we're actually going to feature that game this week against Chipley on the Pick Six, because Chipley is still undefeated as well. And Chipley at Jay this week on the Pick Six. But this next headline. Yeah, Choctaw. Can we, 20-14 in overtime. Pine Forest pulls the upset. And when I heard that, I was like, uh-oh. That was not good. And I'm going to pull up the text message I got from Irish Bill. Irish Bill Hammer out in the Panhandle with Irish Bill Sports said Choctaw turned the ball over 4 times and twice inside the 10. Missed a 38-yard game-winning goal with 21 seconds left. I mean, man. And it doesn't get any easier this week for the Choctaw Indians because who's coming to town? The Niceville Eagles. Another game on our Pick Six this week. And we'll see if Choctaw bounces back or if Niceville continues their winning ways at 5-0. And have to see if we'll have to see about things for next week, but we'll take a look at that. But again, that's a game on the Pick Six coming up here in the next little bit. Again, you're watching this North Florida Blitz, FortHSFootball.com, FortHSFootball.com social media platforms. And we appreciate everybody that's joining us here as we are live here each and every Tuesday night from 8:30 until 9:15 p.m. on all of the social media platforms we're streaming on. That includes Facebook, X/Twitter, and YouTube. And rolling along here with our Blitz lines, Pensacola Catholic suffering their first setback of the season, and that wasn't good. 28-14 to Montgomery Catholic, and they went into Alabama to get and took their first loss of the season. But Pensacola Catholic, the Crusaders, by far, this is a better game for them because Montgomery Catholic is one of the top 25 teams in the state of Alabama this year, and good quality. It's a quality game of what we call quality losses. I mean, if you want to define a quality loss, this would be a team you define a quality loss too. So, Pensacola Catholic, 2-1 on the season, but definitely not anywhere near out of the playoff race at all. And rolling along here with the headlines here, Escambia needed overtime to survive Bay, as Zach Lessner said that the game for Mosley this week is against Escambia, but Escambia, they needed overtime to survive 30-29. So it was a hard pressed game for the Gators there, and since we're talking about Bay, Zach Lessner says he thinks Bay got robbed. They stopped Escambia short on the goal line. It was clearly short, but ref called it a touchdown. And I have actually not seen the video on that one. So if you can feel free to send me to pop the link in the comment. I'll take a look at it. But again, I'm not here to judge the ref officials here. So, I mean, I know that there's these officials only get paid so much money per week. So I mean, the state's already short of officials enough. It's just we have to be careful about that. So, but I, just kind of interested to see the video myself on that, see if because everybody gets a different perspective depending on what they see. So, anyways, rolling along here. In terms of the headlines here, as we roll along here, Niceville keeps the undefeated wave going. They're 4-0, and again, got Choctaw this week. But, I got to say, Niceville, they're just really, they're just doing what they have to do. They go out, they put points up on the board. 28 to 35 points a game. I mean, you can't ask much more than that out of what Niceville's doing there. And this time, 35-14 over Crestview. So hats off to Niceville. But two teams that I did not expect to be talking about this year, but look out for Franklin County and Taylor County, both 4-0. How about a round of applause for both of those teams, considering the struggles both programs have had over the course of the years. And Franklin County, I think they were 0-10 last year. And Taylor County, new coach this year, Jesse Braswell. We'll have to get Coach Braswell on the show here for North Florida Blitz at some point, because what Taylor County Bulldogs are doing for year one of him, they are doing fabulous. Taylor County, 56-0 over North Florida Christian. Yes, that North Florida Christian, the North Florida Christian that we would talk about usually being in the running for deep playoff runs, state championships. That is that same North Florida Christian. And Franklin County beat Liberty County 35-28. By the way, that game was played last night because they postponed it so that way everybody could be able to attend the memorial service for Chance Gainer out of Port St. Joe. And that's still in our hearts and everything. So it was the communities come around there, and they postponed that game right there. And yeah. All right, moving on. As we move on, Florida High picks up their second straight win, 27-6 over South Broward. Seminoles are rolling now after beating Hawthorne in the previous week and giving Hawthorne their first loss. And then, of course, Madison County holding off Columbia 18-13. Columbia didn't score any of their points until the fourth quarter. And you can't do that if you're going to win ball games for Columbia. So Columbia, I mean, they got a big game this week at Trinity Christian, but let's see what happens there with the Tigers. It's not on the Pick 6 week. Sorry if you were expecting that game, not on it, because I'm a little leery of that particular game right this second compared to some of these other games we've got featured here on the Pick 6 this week. And Gainesville slips up against Lecanto. Fans, they got their first loss. It actually gives them a loss in district play. We'll talk to Mike Ridaught here a little bit about that among the other teams here, because he did broadcast that game last Friday night on IM Country 106.9 in the Gainesville market. So we'll talk about that coming up here in a little bit here in the interview part of the show. All right, rolling along here. Buchholz, that game I was at last week. Buchholz up 20-7 in the third quarter. By the end of the third quarter, it was tied, and Buchholz fell apart there in the fourth quarter. And as I said, we can say Manatee unleashed a kind of a hurricane there and on Buchholz, and 35-27. Manatee walks away. 34-27, I should say. Manatee walks away with the win there. And a game that was supposed to have been at Citizens Field, but played at Raider Field instead up at Santa Fe High in Alachua. And Hawthorne edges Oakleaf in the final seconds, 27-21. I went back and watched the video from the Hawthorne broadcast, and it was like 2 seconds left on the clock, and that touchdown was scored. So when Oakleaf had scored in a matter of just the final couple minutes there before, actually, I would say even less than a minute left, Oakleaf had scored that tying touchdown to what was looking like it was going to be free football. Instead, Hawthorne scores the quite literally last second touchdown to move to 3-1 on the season, 27-21 over the Knights. Sandalwood Saints have scored 0 points. Sorry, Mike Rad, I know it's your alma mater. I'm sorry, but they have scored 0 points so far in 4 games this year. And I had to bring this up because I don't know the last time I've seen a team go score 0 points so far in 4 games here. And it's really, really interesting how this has happened. But rolling along with more Northeast Florida teams here real quick here. St. Joseph Academy 5-0 after defeating Eaglesview. And really interesting, 74-6, and Eagles View was basically depleted. They shortened the quarters down, and the game was kind of interesting how that finished there with the shortened quarters for St. Joseph and Eagles View. But St. Joseph, they both agreed to it because, again, the injuries were starting to mount up for Eagles View. All right. I got a few tidbits here that have coming up, and I want to thank Clayton Freeman from the Florida Times Union for this, because he was able to look this actually up and actually had this, and I asked him a little bit about it, because I have been held off to talk about my alma mater here for the first 4 weeks, but now we're going to talk about them a little bit because they're 4-0, and they are off to their best start since 1989. Under former FHA Hall of Fame coach David Wilson. They began that year 7-0. So the 90 season, which was considered the best season for Middleburg by far to date, outside of the 2003 season, Middleburg 7-0 that year in '89, and they didn't start. They only went, from what Clayton told me, they didn't begin 3-0 in that 90 season. So Middleburg has Ridgeview this week, Orange Park the following week. So there's a chance that Middleburg could be sitting at their best start again, and still in 2 weeks' time at 6-0 since 1989. So, I mean, we're talking about a long time in history making right there for a team that has not gotten to talk about. But then Middleburg, they back-to-back playoff years. Got to give them that. And but this could be the first time that Middleburg actually reaches over 500 in terms of wins in the regular season for the first time since 2003. So we'll keep an eye on that. Bowles handles Bishop Kenny in a rivalry game, and that was 35-28. Gotta give the hats off to Bowles. That game got moved from Bishop Kenny to Bowles and at the last minute on Friday, and the Bulldogs handle a very tough battle with the Crusaders to hand the Crusaders their first loss of the season here. And then, yes, I know everybody's been waiting for this, but how about this? Hello, Tornadoes. Hello, Bradford. Hello, Stark. Hello. I know y'all are watching. Bad props. Hats off to all of you. Hats off to the Bradford Tornadoes for beating Mandarin and beating them 18-13. I mean, Bradford will be in the Florida top 25 this week. That is not a doubt. And hopefully I'll be able to go and see them in a couple weeks here, in a few weeks' time against Newberry. That'll be for District 2A5 and for the district championship there, most likely there. So Bradford, I mean, talk about a big, huge win. And how about another round of applause again? I have to eat crow for that one. I don't have any crow here, I promise. But I'm eating proverbial crow because I did take Mandarin in that game, and Bradford turned up the heat really, really strongly on Mandarin. And hats off to Jamie Rogers, hats off to the entire Tornadoes team for that win. And as I told Gene McKenzie when he commented earlier that it's time to give Bradford their props. Here's the props for Bradford. So again, congratulations to the Tornadoes for that big win and a hard and well-fought victory there, and definitely have caught a lot of attention, not just in the state, but nationally as well. And as Gene McKenzie brought it up, number 2 in 2A, which most likely he's probably referencing the Max Preps rankings. So number 990 national ranking. So again, I think that's Max Preps because I saw it was not as high as that in terms of the High School Football America rankings, but they weren't even ranked in the top 300 in High School Football America rankings last week, but Bradford is now this week. So, all right. We got to get moving. We've been a little delayed here, a few minutes with a lot of headlines here, a lot going on in North Florida, but we got to take a 2-minute water break. I need some water. And then we're going to have Mike Ridaught on from Main Street Daily News to talk North Central Florida, North Florida high school football. And we'll talk about that here on the other side after the 2-minute water break right here on the North Florida Blitz here on FloridaHSFootball.com. All right, welcome back here to the North Florida Blitz here on FloridaHSFootball.com, and it's time for the interview part here, and I've got a great colleague of mine here. I've known Mike for a long time. Mike Ridaught from Main Street Daily News, also the PrepZone.com here, a long time here in North Central Florida, especially in the Gainesville, Ocala area, but it's been covering prep sports in the North Florida, including Jacksonville and all points in between. It's been 20, 25 years at least, Mike. But appreciate you joining.
Let's don't do the math on that one.
Well, Mike, let's talk about this. We're already 4 weeks into the season here. We're going into week number 5, which is hard to believe that we're almost 50% of 50 to 60% of the way through the schedule, depending on which team you are and what you got left on the schedule here. And first, let's talk about some of the big things you have seen so far in the first 4 weeks. What hasn't surprised you? What has surprised you so far?
Well, before we start, I appreciate you bringing up my alma mater. Sandalwood won 9 games in 2020, and as you noted, they have been outscored 160-0 in 4 games this year. They were 0-10 last year. I do have them on the schedule. I put them on our broadcast schedule. They're playing at Eastside in October. We're going to broadcast that game only because it's my alma mater. I'm like, yeah, I got to broadcast my alma mater, but I don't think that they're going to be competitive against Eastside. But we'll see. Eastside is a little bit down. They got back in the win column. They're 2-2 on the year. I guess as far as surprises, the Main Street Daily News coverage here, we cover all of Alachua County. We cover the Tri-County area, like Trenton and Williston and Chiefland in that area. We cover Bradford and Union, Columbia County, even Keystone Heights. So out of that entire area, there were only 5 undefeated teams last week going into Friday night or Thursday. I guess I should say Thursday. Well, Eastside wasn't undefeated. So last Friday, out of our area, there were only 5 unbeaten teams. Who would have thought that one of those 5 teams was Gainesville High School? Now, they did lose their first game of the year. I broadcast their game against Lecanto, and they kind of beat themselves a little bit, Josh, in that game. They had, I want to say, five or six 4th and 1s. They were able to convert a couple of those 4th and 1s, but probably the biggest 4th and 1 that they had was a 4th and 1 at the 1, 4th and goal at the 1. They had an illegal procedure penalty that backed them up, so they didn't go for it on 4th and 6. And then because Citizens Field is so sloppy when it rains, the kicker went to kick the field goal, slipped down, and missed the field goal. So,
wow.
Yeah, just a frustrating night for GHS. Not to mention, Braylon Moore for Lecanto returned the opening kickoff 85 yards for a touchdown. So 17 seconds into the game, GHS was down 7-0. They were down 14-0 in the second quarter. Gainesville did get a touchdown. Nelson Tamling threw a 30-yard touchdown pass to Matt Williams with 5 minutes to play in the half to make it 14-7. So they were in the football game, but again, they just made some mistakes that kind of cost them a chance at a victory in that game. I wrote an article about this. This is hard to believe too, Josh. I don't know if you heard this, but going into week 2, It was an opportunity for GHS, Buchholz, and Eastside, as we call them, the big three here in Gainesville, an opportunity for those three schools to go 2-0, which would have been the first time in over 30 years. That's hard to believe. It would have been over 30 years since GHS, Buchholz, and Eastside started 3-0. Now, Gainesville got off to a 3-0 start for the first time since 2012. So back to your original question about which team has been the biggest surprise, when you consider the fact that, Gainesville last year under Ian Scott in his first year only won one game. The year before Ian was the head coach, they didn't win any games. So they've already tripled their win total from the previous 2 years combined. So in my opinion, they've got to be the biggest story. Probably, let's see, by the way, of those 5 teams, 3 of them won. So we only have 3 undefeated teams in the Main Street Daily News coverage area. You just mentioned Bradford High School. They're getting it done with their defense, by the way. They've only given up 41 points. They say defense wins championships. They got to the championship game last year. So if they keep playing defense like that, and if you look at their schedule too, Bradford, I will broadcast their game at Newberry. That might be the only game that they lose the rest of the way, Josh. They got Keystone Heights. That's a win. Palaca, in my opinion, that's a win. Leon is down, even though they have to play them in Tallahassee. Santa Fe may not win a game this year. And then you got North Florida Educational Institute out of Jacksonville. So that game, October the 11th at Newberry, will be a huge game. It's a district game. We'll find out if Bradford can run the table. And then Newberry is another team that, okay, so they lost a game that they almost won. I mean, they were stopped on the goal line in overtime on a 2-point conversion. That was their first loss. But then they went to Ocala and played a Vanguard team. And kind of like Gainesville, they kind of beat themselves a little bit. Plus, they were playing without Hayden Moore. And at a school like Newberry, Hayden Moore, he's a great receiver. Last year had 44 catches, almost 1,000 yards receiving last year. But he's also on defense. He plays special teams. So when he went down, it's like losing 2 or 3 starters. With him back in the lineup, I think Newberry's going to be a tough team down the stretch. Hawthorne was a little bit of surprise, I guess, because we didn't know, at least going in the fall camp, we knew Ingram wasn't going to play quarterback. He opted to play basketball since he's got an offer from Florida. So they got a big lift when Adrian Curtis, and I haven't found out this, Josh, I don't know if you know the answer. You mentioned that last second touchdown that they had. They won, I guess they launched the pass in the air with 2 seconds left. That was a freshman quarterback throwing the football. I don't know if Adrian Curtis got hurt in that football game or not, but
I don't know either, because I looked at that and I was like, and I saw that and I'm like, well, okay, that's not Adrian Curtis throwing that touchdown pass. And I mean, it was stunning, because it was only a few seconds left for Oak Leaf to score, and then bring it to overtime, thinking that we're going to play free football, and next thing you know, Hawthorne's winning the game. So
yeah.
Right. I'm just, it's just really interesting. You speak about Hawthorne, and Hawthorne, they've got a trip down to South Sumter this weekend. South Sumter, who's 1-3,
but played a tough schedule.
And I said, if Newberry showed anything to people, was that Hawthorne was beatable. And of course, what happened the next week is Florida High gets.
Yeah. But getting back to my undefeated comment, Buchholz was the one of the other 5 that lost. Tough loss for Buchholz, because it looked like they had that game won against Bradenton Manatee, and Manatee outscored them 27-7 in the final 15 minutes. So it kind of a reversal of fortunes, if you will, because if you remember in the Eastside game, that was a close game at the half. It was a close game at third quarter. And then in that fourth quarter, Buchholz kind of pulled away in that football game. But again, it's a tough schedule. Buchholz has to go to Georgia this week. They play a really tough schedule. They've been to 3 straight state semifinals. I can't necessarily say that they're a surprise, because I really kind of felt like they would be where they're at right now. But the other undefeated teams, there's only 3 left now in the Main Street Daily News coverage area. Chiefland, which is 4-0 right now under Adam Gore, who's back for his 3rd stint with the Indians. And then Union County, their defense has been pretty good. They've got a couple of shutouts in there. They played a Yulee team on the road, kept them out of the end zone on a 2-point conversion, and won a close game there. they've got a somewhat tough game this week. They've got Fort White, but they do have them in Lake Butler. And then the other undefeated team, as we mentioned, is Bradford. So only 3 undefeated teams in the Main Street Daily News coverage area. So I would say, again, back to that question, which is the biggest surprise for me so far is Gainesville High School. As far as maybe, I don't know if you asked me about the biggest disappointment of the season.
Yeah, maybe
so
the biggest disappointment too, because like, who is your biggest disappointment in the area? I mean, is it maybe the struggles with Columbia? Like it seems like they can't seem to. It's like 1 week they can win a ball game, and the next week they can't seem to get things going until late. Yeah.
But again, keep in mind they did play Madison County. So
oh yes.
You have to, or at least a couple of weeks ago, I guess Madison County, I think, played Swanee this past week. But yeah, Columbia is a team that they'll probably be there in the end. They'll be in the mix when it comes to the playoffs. So I don't know, as from a disappointment standpoint, that's a good question, because I'm not sure if we're only about 4 games into the season. If there's anyone that I could say has been a huge disappointment. There's still a lot of football left to be played, unless we're talking about the orange and blue. That, obviously the Gators.
Well, we got some questions. We got some comments here, Mike, and G. McKenzie disagree with you. Newberry will be a blow. So he thinks Bradford will actually win that game. So he's already putting up his prediction here, 21-0. So there's that. I have a question from Christopher.
Let me just say, as good as that Bradford defense is, you're talking about Jarquez Carter, who is an Ohio State commit. On that front line for Newberry, you've got Micah Newton. He was an NC State commit, and then he flipped to Miami. Then you got McLeod on that defense too, another Division I football player. And then they've got a good quarterback, a guy that transferred from Buchholz High School, a big kid too in Dunmore. Woods, an outstanding running back. They've got some weapons. As long as Moore is healthy in that game, he's a guy that can stretch the field. I think Newberry can win that football game.
I mean, yeah, and then but Gene brings up a good point. Mandarin had all their prospects, and they were able to pull out the win. So I mean,
but they've got a lot of Division I talent on that football team. But don't forget, their quarterback is an FSU commit who's been injured.
Oh, you're right. So we'll see what happens here. That's, I believe, October 11th. I want to say that's when the game is. So that'll be a big district game right there.
Not to take anything away from Bradford. So don't get me wrong. That was a big win for the Tornadoes.
No, fair enough. But I got a question from Christopher Like here in a moment that I'm going to pop up. But Anthony Ruth Curtis actually broke his arm in the game against Florida High, so that's why he is out. So there's our answer right there. So thank you, Anthony Ruth, for providing that insight there. Didn't realize that Curtis actually had broke his arm, but hopefully for a speedy recovery for him, for the Hornets there with Adrian Curtis. Now,
that's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. Christopher Like asks for you the early struggles with the Gators and Seminoles this season. How has it impacted recruiting locally, and have you seen anything that may impact the recruiting? Because honestly, that's I brought up a question. I posted this on social media back on Saturday. It was we got UCF and Miami. We have the Big Four now, not the Big Three in terms of the college football teams. Those the two schools south of I-4 are doing really well. It's the 2 schools north of I-4 that are struggling greatly. And but those are the 2 of the biggest brands in terms of college football anywhere in the nation. And I mean, anything that you've seen so far in terms of just any talk around here, just that's impacting things? Because I know
plenty of talk.
Well, yeah. In terms of the recruiting side, but we know there's plenty of talk around here. That's a whole other show.
Yeah, therein lies a problem. We don't have to get into the Gators too much, but when you've got a coach that's on the hot seat and you're thinking about coming to Gainesville and playing for the University of Florida, yes, you want to play for the brand, but you also do come here, you develop a relationship with the coaches, with the coaching staff. So with that uncertainty, I'm sure it's going to impact it in a huge way. Then the question becomes, heck, we still don't even know if Naper's going to get fired. We'll find out. Maybe it could come as early as this Saturday if they lose in Starkville. They got the open date after that. I think that would be a good time. If you know that you want to get rid of the coach, that'd be a perfect time to get rid of him. But then the question becomes, do you have a guy that you trust on your staff to be the interim coach for the rest of the way? And then when you even look beyond that further, Josh, obviously we know the big name. Everybody wants the guy from Ole Miss. But the problem is, if they're in the playoffs you're not going to get him until after January. So there's just a lot of uncertainty. So yes, to answer your question, I think it is affecting recruiting. It's got to right now, just because nobody knows if Napier's going to be around, or even if he is, do you want to play for him? Depends on how bad Florida struggles this year.
And then Florida State 0-3, obviously probably the same impact there too. So it's
well, his job, Norvell's job is safe. I mean, they may be 0-3, but he's not losing his job this year.
So, but the recruiting could see an impact regardless, and
yes.
unless both teams start winning. But we'll happens, and we'll see what happens there and with that. But when we look at it this year with Chiefland, you brought up Chiefland 4-0, and I think the big stunner with Chiefland this year for me was beating Williston week 1. I mean, considering that, hey, you got Robbie Pruitt there. I mean, look what Pruitt's done, turning Williston around, and all of a sudden here comes Chiefland marching in, and they're like, here's your first loss of the season right out of the gate, when people were like picking Williston to start really hot.
Yeah, that was a big win for them. And, their defense, another team that, look at their defense, only gave up 10. Lafayette, a decent Lafayette team, won 38-20. So right now, Chiefland's on a roll. I'm not sure if you're hearing this music in the background, but if you are, I apologize.
Would you just had a little bit of a mute real quick, but you're okay there.
Okay. All right. Trenton is a winnable game on the road. Dixie County, a winnable game on the road. Taylor County, though, playing really good football right now. That could be their first loss of the season. But then a couple of games after that, they end their season against Union County. So another tough one. But, they're a team that will be in the playoffs this year.
No, absolutely. And Mike, real quick, you got you not only write with Main Street Daily News, which you can go to mainstreetdailynews.com and see all the articles there, but that you put up each and every week. But you do the game of the week on local radio here in Gainesville. Kind of talk to fans about that because y'all broadcast on even though it doesn't get down to necessarily to the Ocala market, it's still a 100,000 watt signal that you broadcast on every Friday night.
Well, not only that, but you can also catch the audio stream. You can go to iamcountryradio.com and listen to the game online. But our radio game of the week this week is going to be Williston at Eastside. It's a big game for Williston because Robbie Pruitt is going for win number 400 this Friday night. So a big game at Citizens Field, Eastside, right now 2-2. That's kind of a pivotal game for them. Williston, you mentioned losing the season opener to Chiefland, but they've bounced back. They've won 2 in a row now. They're 2-1 on the year. So it's a good litmus test, if you will, early in the season. Eastside, I think, they've kind of beaten themselves a little bit at times too. So, looking forward to that one. That's going to be a 7:30 game. We'll be on the air at 7. We also have an audio game of the week that we do each week. And Marty Palman's going to broadcast that one on Thursday. Gainesville will be at home against Ocala Forest. So we'll see if GHS can get back in the win column on Thursday. That's at mainstreetdailynews.com.
Absolutely. And, of course, and you can catch those games that are on Friday nights, 106.9 FM in the Gainesville market. Hey, I mean, there's going to be some fun games here, but you spoke up Eastside real quick. Just to think about it, they've been district champs the past 2 years. Their district's much tougher because they got South Sumnerson in that district, and South Sumner's no joke.
Yeah, that obviously they're struggling a little bit, the record wise, but they have played a difficult schedule, and that's a district game, so a big game for them. That's why I said I think it's a pivotal game for them. They need to get another win, beat Williston, win your home games. It's a team that should be able to compete for a district championship, I would think. They've got a freshman at quarterback. So even though I know that Gator, Coach Hoskins, has talked big about his freshman in the preseason, he's still a freshman. At times he's looked pretty good, but he is a freshman. So they've still got some difficult games on their schedule. So still a long way to go in this high school football season for sure.
No, absolutely. And Mike, tell everybody where they again can find you at, the social media and where your content.
Yes. If you go to mainstreetdailynews.com, the great thing about our website is we do not have a paywall. You can go read our stuff for free. Josh mentioned the games that we broadcast, but all of the games that we broadcast, we also write a game recap for. So we'll have recaps of the GHS and Eastside football games this week. If you're a high school volleyball fan, I've been seeing a lot of volleyball. The last 3 weeks, I guess, I've been going to 2 games per week. I was at the GHS Buell's volleyball game last night. I had a recap at Main Street there. And then also I've got Ocala PK Young Volleyball on Thursday night. I'll have a recap on Main Street for that one as well. So you can find a lot of good stuff at mainstreetdailynews.com. And then, at Ridaught is good. Also at the Prep Zone, ThePrepZone, at the Prep Zone. You can find a lot of stuff there as well that I'll retweet and send out.
No, absolutely. And Mike, I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you're busy not just writing, not just broadcasting, also teaching some classes at UF. So you got as they say, jack of all trades there.
Yeah, definitely staying busy.
No, absolutely.
Thanks for the time, Josh. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon here as the playoffs approach.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. That was Mike Ridaught from Main Street Daily News joining us here on the North Florida Blitz. Appreciate him taking some time there and out of his busy schedule. Again, a lot of great football up this way in North Florida, and we definitely will be talking to Mike more, especially with the playoffs approaching, because there will be a lot of teams across the North Florida landscape that will be in the playoff hunt and in making the playoffs. So with that said, we've got the fan question and the fan comment of the fan question of the week, some comments as well. But first and foremost, we do have to take the second water break. I know we're running a few minutes behind here, but that's okay. A little bit of flexibility here, but we will get to that. Fan question, pick 6 for week 5. We'll have all that coming up after the water break here on the North Florida Blitz. Stay tuned. We'll be right back right after this. All right, welcome back here to the North Florida Blitz here for this Tuesday evening, September 17th of 2024. Josh Wilson here. Make sure you follow us on social media at Florida HS Football and on X/Twitter at FLAHS Football. And of course, subscribe on YouTube. We will appreciate that as very much as we get closer to 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. We can do some things once we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. That is YouTube's rules, not my rules. That's just how it goes. So, but with that said, we do have some comments, some fan questions here sitting here in the box here, and we're going to go through a couple of these here real quick before we get to the pick 6. And you know what? I will bring up Billy Rayberg's question, comment about Coach Jamie Rogers, #1 coach of the state of Florida this weekend. Yes, that is by the University of South Florida, the Bulls down there. They do a Coach of the Week award, I just realized. And, looking at it, Jamie Rogers getting recognized for that big win over Mandarin, 18-13 again. So bring up that comment there. Definitely congratulations there to head coach Jamie Rogers here in his Bradford toward. Actually, let me get it pulled up here real quick on the sound. Round of applause. There we go. We got it. So yes, again, congratulations there to the. Yep. Oh, now it wants to play again. There we go. Stop that for a moment. All right, David Kalzowski, which kind of following up on what Zach Lesnar was saying about the big game Friday night between Mosley and Escambia, and so that'll be really a really good game right there. I could have potentially put that game on the pick six, but there's just quite a few great games here, and it's hard, when we're trying to keep it to 6 games here. I could have added more games, but we're going to keep it to 6 here, and that's what we're going to have here in a moment. Ellis Hall says Union County rolling right or wrong, and he's absolutely right. Still undefeated on the year. Had some tough games, but also had a couple of shutouts. So, again, we're going to see what Union County does here for the rest of the season, and Jonathan Ferris chimes in. Tough game for Lincoln this Friday as they travel to Ware County. Yes, that same Ware County that lost by 1 to Bartram Trail last week. Not this previous week, the week before that, week 3 to Bartram Trail, that 43-42 overtime game. So Lincoln's going to have a tough challenge, but Lincoln 3-0. They had the bye week this past week, so we'll see if Lincoln's ready and well rested on that one for this week and week number 5. All right, time to roll into the pick 6 for week number 5, and yes, Purdy Purd joins in. Reigns Vikings going to bring that 4th title home this year. I'm telling you now. They're right in the mix. They're sitting there in Class 3A. They're the number 2 team as of last week in the FloridaHSFootball.com sports media rankings. We'll see what happens because Miami Central sitting there at number 1. Reigns probably will still be like Miami Central Reigns sitting there 1-2 situation still. So they are getting some first place votes. So I will tell you that Reigns is getting some first place votes in the rankings, but with that said, we do have the pick 6 for week 5 coming up here. And my results last week, 3-3, including that loss to, I didn't pick right on the Bradford game. Again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bradford. I'm sorry. My fiance was right. She was right. I should have taken Bradford last week. She was right. But with that said, I most likely will not be picking against Bradford ever again for the rest of the season. So, yeah, my ward. I know. I'm going to catch more flack for that probably because, Bradford and Newberry, We'll go from there. All right. So far, I'm 18-11 here on the season. Oh, go back and hit that button too fast. 18-11 on the season. I'm 62% correct. That's not bad, but I'd like it for it to be better. So let's start see if those improvements start here this week. And our first game up is Chipley 4-0 at Jay at 4-0. And I'm just still very impressed what Jay did to Baker this past week. It just really, really surprised me. The Royals 41-0 over the Baker Gators, and Chipley 4-0. But when I kind of look at the comparison of the schedules, I think for Jay, this win over Baker has just fired them up to the point that it really, I believe that Jay is they're building something special that they have not really been able to do in their history, and they're going to be a force in the world playoffs this year. And I'm going with Jay. I'm taking Jay over Chipley for a big win this week. We'll see if I'm right, but just the way the Royals, after doing that against Baker and a legendary coach in Matt Brunson, I'm going with the Jay Royals for the win this week. All right, Taylor County at Bluntstown. Yes, Bluntstown did not play last week. Bluntstown. Here's the thing about Bluntstown. Bluntstown did not play last week. They were supposed to play Port St. Joe. Obviously, we know the celebration of life services there for Chance Gainer. So we don't know if that game's actually going to get made up or not. It was postponed officially, but it was removed off the schedule according on the Max Prep. So we'll see if that game pops back on the schedule at some point later in the season. So Bluntstown off this past week. coming in Taylor County, a very, very strong Taylor County team. Again, we mentioned it earlier in the show, 4-0. Bluntstown 2-0, but Bluntstown, their second win was a triple overtime game against Rutherford, and I don't know if Bluntstown not being able to play the past 2 weeks is going to have what kind of impact that's going to have on them. So we're going to see what happens, but Taylor County has just been rolling, and I'm kind of rolling this with Taylor County here on the pick here this week. So I'm taking Taylor County to beat Bluntstown, go to 5-0, and I can't tell you the last time when Taylor County was 5-0. It's been a while, so we'll see what happens there. But David Kozlowski also, I hope I'm not butchering your name, David. I'm sorry, but not so fast. He thinks Chipley is going to win. So, I mean, yes. Yeah, he says not so fast. Chipley wins. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens, David, on that game. All right, going into our third game, Oakleaf 3-1 at Bowles 2-1. Yes, Bowles won 35-28. Oakleaf did lose their first game of the season to Hawthorne, which almost ended up being an overtime game. This is going to be a battle. Oakleaf is much better than what they were last year, and it is showing on the field this year. And Bowles had the battle against Bishop Kenny, but Bowles won. And I really honestly think this one really comes down to it. I'm taking Bowles by a hair in this game, but if Oakleaf wins, I will not be shocked because Oakleaf has showing that they are a much better ball club this year. So I have to give it them. I have to give that to them. All right, rolling along to our fourth game here, Niceville at Choctaw. Choctaw again, that overtime loss to Pine Forest. Let's see how the Indians and Frank Beasley's crew perseveres and bounces back against Niceville, who I got to give it. Grant Thompson's crew 4-0. The Eagles are looking really good. Choctaw, they've been good, but I mean, I got to say it. This is going to be a tough one, and I'm going on the side of caution here. I'm taking Niceville on this game. I just think the Eagles they're just playing really sound football. Choctaw's got to clean up some of the mess that they had last week. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the show, some of the stuff that 4 fumbles in the game with what Irish Bill was telling me, you got to clean that up. Otherwise, you're not going to win ball games by giving away 4 balls like that. So with that said, I'll stick with the Eagles. And David, he's popping in. He thinks Niceville blow out Choctaw. But, I don't think necessarily Niceville blows Choctaw out. Niceville wins, but Choctaw will fight in these games. Choctaw will fight in these games. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout. So, I mean, I'll disagree here. Respectfully disagree. But, hey, at least we're on the same side that we're picking Niceville. So that I can see that. We're good there. All right, rolling along here. We've got our 5th game, Vanguard at Dunellen. This is going to be a good one. And I may surprise some people here with my pick. Because some people might be thinking, okay, are you going to take Dunellen because it's at home? Or are you going to take Vanguard because Vanguard's usually the best team in Marion County? Well, there's a couple reasons why I'm making my pick. The way I'm making this pick, I'm taking Dunellen. You're going to say, oh, wow. All right. Okay, let's look at it. Your only loss is to Buchholz. The 2 teams the 3 teams, okay, you beat Newberry, who was dealing with some struggles. They one of their best players was out for that game. I feel like that would have been a different result had they not had the injuries that they had. Leesburg. Well, everybody questioned me about Leesburg because of the amount of points that Leesburg has scored through the first 3 weeks against inferior competition, and then here they are. It was a 21-14 victory for Vanguard, and Leesburg showed that this is not the same Vanguard team that we have seen the last couple of years, especially last year's team that was a state semifinalist. Dunellen has been playing some really good football, and I think Dunellen, this is at home, and I take Dunellen here. This was a booster. I take Vanguard. So I'm going with Dunellen to get a nice big win here. This will be a good win for them on Friday, I believe. All right, rolling into our 6th game. How about this? Nice 3-0, St. Augustine 3-0. Wow, battle of St. Johns County teams. I love this one. I mean, this is what I love this one, but it also is a little harder for me. I feel like Nice 3-0, St. Augustine 3-0, both of these teams, they're just playing really good football. St. Augustine did have to battle Riverside, whereas Nice blew out Fletcher this past week. But this is at Fitz Brumley, and for me, if this was at Nice, I'd be more apt to take Nice based upon the results of how St. Augustine had to battle last week. And then Nice is going to give St. Augustine a lot of fits. St. Augustine's going to give Nice a lot of fits. But I'm taking St. Augustine at Fitz Brumley. But again, this is another game. I will not be shocked if Nice comes out and forges ahead with a victory. And it would be a good quality victory for the Nice Panthers if they won that game. But I think the St. Augustine Yellow Jackets are going to get this one. So, with that said, that is the pick 6 for week number 5 here on the North Florida Blitz. And I know we're kind of a little bit over our time here, but there's been some comments that's kind of been going through here as we've been talking. And Gene McKenzie says, "We forgive you, Josh. Do your thing." Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll take it. I'll do my thing. We'll continue to do that. Oh, my lovely fiance has dropped a comment in the box and said, and I'm going to have to pull this one up because he's like, Gene, did you hear last week I called for Bradford? And she kept reminding me, yes, and it followed my heart, but we're going to see because Jeremiah McKenzie, who is, I believe, committed to Central Michigan. If I've got that correct, Gene can tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's Central Michigan. Was one of the key players last week in that victory against Mantrin. And they were running the Wildcat. And that, I mean, Wildcat, I will tell you this, the Wildcat is hard to defend if you're not prepared for it on the other side. So when the team comes out with running the Wildcat and you're not prepared for it, watch out. That's how teams can win ball games and sneak up on you. So, and Gene confirmed it, yes, for Jeremiah. So, yes. Indeed. And Jonathan Ferris chimed in that Taylor County beat North Florida Christian 56-0, and he believes NFC is down this year. And this is not the same North Florida Christian that we have seen. So we will see what happens there. But with that said, we have to wrap up the show here, and we're going to call it a night here for the North Florida Blitz. And we appreciate everybody that has joined us here, and I appreciate Mike Ridaught for joining us from Main Street Daily News. A lot of fun with all y'all with the comments and questions and everything. We'll keep that up. We'll keep doing that here as we go into week number 6 next week, and we'll have the first Drive the State show with the playoff rankings from the FHA coming out next Tuesday as well. So stay tuned for that. That'll be next Tuesday, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central here on FloydHSFootball.com and the FloydHSFootball.com social media platform. So, all right. For myself, Joshua Wilson, and then all the Floyd HS Football here, we'll see you and have a great night. We'll see you next week.